Hello dear children. Today we are going to begin with a new lesson, that is Galileo. Galileo Galilei was born on 15th February 1564 in Pisa, Italy. Some of Galileo's inventions are as follows: thermometer in the year 1593, compass in the year 1597, telescope in the year 1609, and pendulum clock in the year 1641. So dear children, now let us begin with the story. Now we know that the earth is revolving around the sun. But in the ancient, that is early times, many people used to think that the earth was static, which means it was fixed in a place. In this space, while all the other celestial bodies like the sun, the moon, etc., all used to take rounds around the earth. This disbelief of the people was shaken by Galileo, who gave light or who showed the importance to the fact that the earth was the one that used to revolve around the sun and not the sun around the earth. In 1608, there was a person named Hans Lippershey, who was a native of Holland, who had invented a telescope that magnified, which means increased in size, the objects for several times over. With the help of these instruments, astronomers could easily observe the heavenly bodies. Astronomers are those people who study about the heavenly bodies like the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxy, and so on. Hans Lippershey lived between 1570 to 1619. Galileo, when heard about Hans' invention, he became very much interested in the invention of the telescope. He then started to study about astronomy, that is, the study of these heavenly bodies like the sun, moon, stars, and so on. And Galileo also felt that his invention would surely work out. He started to work on his invention, and also very soon he was successful in inventing a telescope which was better than that of Lippershey. It was Galileo's telescope that were always inclined, that is, tilted towards the stars. He then looked through the telescope and saw through it clearly and nearly 100 times, and saw as many stars as he could see with his eyes. He also looked at various other heavenly bodies like the Milky Way galaxy, the broad white band of light seen across the sky at night, and found that they contained fainted stars. He also saw the moon with the help of the telescope. He was filled with amusement, that is, surprise, that the moon, which seemed a very smooth surface, had very high mountains and also very deep valleys on its surface. Galileo was deeply excited with his discoveries, and he carried his telescope to Venice and showed it to the people who were well learned in that city. The people of Venice gathered around Galileo to have a look through the looking tube. That was Galileo's telescope. They took it to the top of the high buildings and took a look at the ships in the sea. They used to see the ships that were 50 miles away, which appeared only 15 miles away when they used to look through the looking tube or the telescope. When the ruler of Venice was shown the telescope, he was very pleased. That is, he became very happy with the invention, and he also appointed Galileo as the professor for life at the University of Padua. The telescope that was made by Galileo for the first time had increased the size of the object for nearly 3 times than its original size. Later on, he also made another telescope that increased the size of the object for nearly 8 times than its original size. After this achievement also, Galileo didn't give up. He didn't stop till he made a telescope that increased the size of the object for nearly 30 times. With the help of the telescope that increased the size of objects for 30 times, he made really very important discoveries regarding the heavenly bodies. He discovered that Jupiter had several little moons that revolved around it. He also found that the sun had spots on it, and these spots moved slowly around the sun. He also found that the sun also, like the earth, moves around itself. After nearly 50 years, a Polish astronomer named Copernicus had declared that the earth, like all other planets, revolved around the sun. Copernicus was, however, unsuccessful to prove this fact to the people of his times, and also a very few number of people gave the importance to what facts were said by Copernicus. Galileo was the first great student of astronomy to understand the ideas of Copernicus, which were true, and also he was a knowledgeable person to begin the teachings of Copernicus at the university. His teachings brought great interest and excitement among the people who were learned, because it meant that all their teaching was completely wrong. These people began to oppose Galileo, and also many of them became his enemies. Then he was catched in trouble with the church. His ideas were different about the sun and the earth than the Bible. So the followers of the church began to look him as an incorrect and a dangerous man. Bible is the holy book of the Christians. The church in those days had a court which was called the Inquisition. Punished the people who accepted the ideas of Galileo. Galileo was also tried in the court, which means he was called in the court. He was asked about his beliefs and also to kneel down and announce that the earth did not revolve around the sun. Galileo was sure if he did not agree to this and declare what he was asked to do, he would surely be put into the prison, and also the people might torture him. As Galileo was afraid of the torture, he obeyed the order given by the Inquisition, that is the court. There was once a story that as he rose up his knees from the ground, after the discussion in the public, he quietly said to himself that the earth is still moving around the sun. The court ordered Galileo not to spread his evil ideas anymore. But Galileo respected the court's orders for some time and not for long. He continued with his studies, and after some time, he started preaching, which means teaching his ideas again. He also wrote a book which criticized, which means that tried to prove wrong the olden beliefs. When the book was published, that is, it came into the market, the court once again ordered Galileo to be tried as a non-believer. After a very long trial, he was finally sent to the prison, that is the jail. But by that time, he was an old man, and also he was allowed to go home after 22 days. Dear children, let us have a look into the word meanings that come in the lesson. Invent. Find out something new. Discover. Find out something which was already there but was not known until then. Astronomer. A scientist who studies heavenly bodies. Magnify. Make bigger. Faint. Not clear. Amazement. Great surprise. Excite. Feel pleased and interested. Looking tube. Hear. Telescope. Realize. Understand. Kneel. Sit on one's knees. Whisper. Speak in a very low voice. Inquisition. The organization set up by the Roman Catholic Church to punish the people who opposed its beliefs. Unbeliever. One who does not believe in God. Now, let us have a look into the question answers of this lesson. Question 1. How is our knowledge about the earth different from the knowledge of people, even learned men, 400 years ago? Answer. It is common knowledge today that the earth is a planet revolving around the sun. But there was a time, not many centuries ago, when even learned men believed that the earth was fixed in space and the sun and all the other heavenly bodies went around it. Question 2. Who corrected people's thinking about our earth in the 17th century? Answer. Galileo Galilei corrected people's thinking about our earth in the 17th century. Question 3. What is Lippershey's contribution to astronomy? Answer. Lippershey invented the telescope, the instrument with which astronomers carries the telescope, makes distant objects appear to be nearer and magnified several times over. Question 4. What is the Milky Way? Answer. The Milky Way is the broad white band of light seen across the sky at night and contains millions and millions of faint stars. Question 5. In what ways is the moon similar to the earth? Answer. On the moon's surface, which seems to be so smooth, it has high mountains and deep valleys like those on the earth. Question 6. Why was Galileo appointed as the professor at the University of Padua? Answer. The people of Venice saw ships 50 miles away appearing to be only 15 miles. When the telescope was shown to the ruler of Venice, he was greatly pleased with the invention and appointed Galileo as a professor for life at the University of Padua. Question 7. What were the two important discoveries Galileo made with his much improved telescope? Answer. With his much improved telescope, Galileo found that the planet Jupiter has little moons that revolved around it and found that the sun had spots upon it and that the spots slowly moved across its face. He found from this that the sun, like the earth, spins around itself. Question 8. Who made discoveries similar to Galileo's in the 16th century? Answer. Copernicus, a Polish astronomer, had made discoveries similar to Galileo in the 16th century. Question 9. What trouble did Galileo bring upon himself by telling truths about the heavenly bodies? Answer. Galileo's new teaching caused great excitement among the learned men because it meant that All their own teaching was completely wrong. They began to oppose him, and many of them became his enemies. Then he got into trouble with the church. Question 10. What is the humorous story about Galileo facing the Inquisition? Answer. Galileo knelt and declared that he no longer believed that the earth moved around the sun. As he rose from his knees, he whispered to himself, but still it does move. Dear students, I hope you have understood this lesson. Thank you.